we've just launched a groundbreaking report produced by an independent firm called Severia, which has looked at the impacts of a potential spill in the Ottawa area from the proposed Energies pipeline. I would encourage everyone to go to our website and to check that out. Daniel Cayley-Daoust from the Council of Canadians is going to begin by giving us a little bit of a sense of some of those local issues, as well as placing the work that we're doing within the context of a broader national campaign.
As many people have probably seen, this is the map of where the pipeline is going to be going in our regions. The red line here, and then you can see it goes through a good chunk of the city limits, the rural part of the city limits. The report basically had for objective of analyzing or producing kind of an analysis of what the potential impacts of a spill could be in the Rideau River as well as the Mississippi River. So the Rideau River goes through kind of the downtown core, and the Mississippi River is near Pakenham is where it crosses the pipeline down there. One thing we notice is that it crosses quite close to the Ottawa River on the Mississippi River, and the Rideau River also flows into the Ottawa River. So that has an implication, and we'll see when I talk about the results a little bit, for our drinking water. If you go to the next slide, these four faucets on the map show you where the city of Gatineau and the city of Ottawa take its drinking water. So the furthest left and the furthest right are the Gatineau, and the two in the middle are the Ottawa water-taking areas. These are one of the things in the report is notably the potential impacts or the threat to drinking water for both of those cities. One of the things the report did was show kind of a progression of where the spill would go under normal circumstances after a certain amount of hours. So within about 14 hours or so, it reaches, with the Mississippi River we're talking about, it reaches the Ottawa River and then flows down. If you go to the next picture, it flows down to within about 60 hours to the first water-taking zone. And I'll explain a little bit what that means. And if we go to the next one, for the Rideau River, it starts a little bit near Kempville. Within about 20 hours, it reaches the suburban area of the city, goes through kind of the rural area, and then into the suburban area. And then next picture will show you kind of, it reaches the Ottawa River within about 48 hours for the first, the water-taking zone. So the Rideau River only affects one of the water-taking zones because the rest of them are upstream. The Mississippi River has the potential of flowing through the whole section of the Ottawa River. So when we're talking about 48 and 60 hours, one thing that the report also does is look at other case studies of spills. The two main ones it looked at were the Kalamazoo River Enbridge spill in Michigan, as well as the Husky Energy North Saskatchewan River spill. The first thing to take note of is the reaction time, of what in technical terms companies call reaction time. So how much time it takes for a company to shut the valves. So in the case of the Michigan spill, it took about 17 hours before the leak stopped. The company noticed it and was able to act and stop the leak. But then during those 17 hours, oil was flowing into the river and then going downstream. Subsequently, the spill would continue for a number of hours. I don't have the number right now, but it went down to 60 kilometers downstream from the spill site, which is well within the two kind of zones here of threat. For the Saskatchewan, North Saskatchewan River spill, similarly, it would go on for about 14 hours before the company kind of was able to realize there was a spill and shut the valves to the spill. So in the Kalamazoo one, there was about 3.8 million liters spilled. And in the North Saskatchewan one, about 250,000. And as Graham mentioned, in the Saskatchewan example, it went downstream, it flowed downstream, the oil, about 500 kilometers. The company had a lot of trouble kind of controlling the spill once it happened, despite a lot of mobilization efforts of like machinery and different techniques and stuff like that. And ultimately, the consequences were real for both of those communities. In the case of the Michigan spill, the river, about 45 kilometers of the river were shut down for 3 full years while they were cleaning up the spill. In the case of the North Saskatchewan River spill, it's pretty recent, so there's a lot of consequences and things that we're still finding out about. But it flowed quite a distance downstream and closed down the drinking water and the normal use of the river for over 70,000 people, as well as a lot of smaller towns and indigenous communities along that stretch. So it had a lot of very real day-to-day consequences for a lot of people. So those are some of the things that the report points to, the threat to drinking water, as well as potential other direct consequences to the local ecosystems. We're talking about, for example, wildlife. We saw in the case of the Saskatchewan spill, there was a few wild different birds and animals that ended up either dying or were hurt or immersed in oil and had to be treated. Similar for like aquatic life, there's direct impacts, whether it's death or some sort of altering of the habitat. And similarly, anything that from recreational activities to daily use of the river, as well as a lot of economic activity linked to the river. I know for the region here, there's a lot of tourism. Tourism is a huge thing, and people have a lot of associate a lot of like outdoor activity life with the river. We know that the Rideau River, the Rideau Canal, is a World UNESCO Heritage Site, so that has a lot of pull in a lot of ways. And just recently, the Minister of Environment, Catherine McKenna, deemed or said that, or I don't know, named the Ottawa River as a Canadian Heritage River. Well, the Ontario side, because we're still waiting on the Quebec government to do the other part, but it's still, and that's a little funny anecdote. But those are the kinds of people value the Ottawa River quite a bit in those senses. Anyway, the report also goes into a few other examples about potential risk to local well water sources. There's a shallow aquifer, the Oxford Aquifer, as well as a lot of wetlands along the pipeline route. One thing I forgot to mention at the beginning is the pipe it's an old gas pipeline that's already there for the Ottawa portion that would be converted to an oil pipeline. So it goes through a lot of sensitive areas already, and a spill would have consequences. Finally, just a quick wrap up around the political context in the local region here, at least with the two cities. The city of Gatineau last week, the Environment Commission adopted a resolution that they want to present to City Council, where they're going to recommend that the city of Gatineau take a stance against the Energy East pipeline. So that should be on October 18th at the City Council meeting. So that looks promising. It's not a done deal yet, so if some people want to go to that City Council and be present, that would be great. Similar to the City of Ottawa has struck what you call an NEB working group, a National Energy Board working group, to develop recommendations around what the city of Ottawa should do in relation and what position it should take. They will issue a recommendation to the city's Environment Committee by in the next few months, probably by early 2017. So what we'll be doing is presenting the findings of this report to this NEB working group with Ecology Ottawa, and we'll be encouraging people to also communicate with their councillors and share the results of this report and any other concerns that people have with that. Eventually, that recommendation from the Environment Committee would go to the City Council as well. So there's good opportunities across the country. There's a lot of of opposing views in different communities. We've got a lot of cities, especially in the province of Quebec, that have come out very strongly against it. A lot of local communities, cottagers associations across Ontario, and local residents. We've worked a lot, for example, with the Council of Canadians, with people in North Bay. They're very concerned and raising a lot of issues around the water impacts. And there's a lot of, and we'll hear a bit about some of the First Nations mobilizations as well. So thanks very much, and that covers it.